it's a lovely exhibition. It's definitely really nice to see. And this morning I was looking through an old catalogue, in fact, for a reproduction of a painting that I mentioned to you. And I came across a quote from Willem de Kooning on a seminar in 1951, where someone said, it's great for abstract artists because they sort of just sit in an armchair and consider infinity.
Okay, yes.
And he said, well, actually, for some artists, I'd include myself in this, we don't even know which chair to sit in because we're so nervous. Because art is not really a place of calmness. The finished thing might look it as here, but actually, when you're making a painting, it's a very uneasy process.
Yes, yeah.
Are you one of those people who find it an easy
yes.
process?
I would say yes, it's more looking than the action most of the time, especially for the beginning. It was exciting to start the initial mark that stimulated more of the movement. I just got excited about putting down this certain type of yellow. A kind of lopsided window in reflection of what I was looking at. But after that initial mark, I knew that was the right mark to start with, but then after that, every step was an adjustment to what I was trying to reflect from the image. So most of it was looking back and waiting for sections I enjoyed making, sections that I was excited, sections I was sure of. I wanted them to dry so that I didn't interrupt that when I knew that was the right mark. So I tried to move on to the next painting and then come back to it. So a lot of looking after that and then looking different ways at it or moving it around and just seeing that, to keep going with that. But the initial mark is exciting, but then the steps after that is always adjustment
it's more difficult.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And
you mentioned that, one significant source for this exhibition was an old photograph.
Yes, yeah. I took it it's more than 10 years old, but it was a moment of kind of, I remember saying to the people, I'm going to take a picture of you, which normally I would never do, and because you look so together, kind of in sync, kind of positive, really working well together and communicating, everyone's in conversation and kind of moving while they're working together. So I just thought, and I kind of liked the way the two women were sitting on the same chair, two friends, they're kind of two figures sharing the same chair and they're very close together. So I just said, don't even move, please. I would love, just don't even change your face, just, and they did. So they didn't change anything. And so I was able to capture that. And I said, that's going to be a painting one day. And
really?
I did actually try and paint it before in a series, which I did paint it once, but it was just more exciting again when I was looking through things I'd done, looking through all the things I've saved, which isn't a lot of things, a lot of images. I really enjoyed that one, and I was like, that's definitely something I never got to, and kind of remembering it was exciting to think about the good kind of feeling.
So it was something about the atmosphere of that moment.
Something about the atmosphere and good morale and positive kind of...
and the kind of communality with everyone
together.
Yeah,
exactly. Everyone kind of really thinking about what they're, discussing life, and I just really thought it was a special kind of moment, so I've saved it.
And I find that, particularly if you look here, it's like you sort of bathe in a kind of golden light.
Yeah.
Which reminded me a bit of early medieval or early Renaissance painting.
Yeah.
Where the subjects were often religious and it's just incredible golden glow over things.
Yes, like you were saying the other day, I didn't really... I kind of always been attracted to that, even when I was in Limerick. There's quite a lot of churches that you take time, and it's a kind of city full of churches, really. So I'd always look around and, like the colours even, or just the feeling. Yeah, I didn't really realize it again. Like I've
Yeah.
often been drawn to that, but then I definitely realized it again when I was kind of making the last few marks or exciting marks that I really enjoyed making when I was thinking of like halos and like things like
Right.
that. You know,
Yeah.
like because they are
Yeah.
they are very abstracted, but they are figurative in my mind. So
Yes. Yeah.
when I made like a certain paintings have sweeps like of a head, you know, only a few of them, but I was excited that that sweep fitted because it felt like it was golden and that kind of religious vibe
Yeah.
to it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So there's a subtle one or two heads in it, and I felt it corresponded with the colour that I initially started with. So that was exciting to make those kind of connections, or that's you're kind of thinking it, but you don't know until you're towards the end. So yeah,
they're not very figurative though.
No, they're not, but I feel like they're kind of warm, or they're kind of they move the like figures, like they change like a figure would when you move through the paintings, like they change. They're adjusting like a figure would move a bit, you know, like as the people were kind of moving slightly
so
in the
there
discussion.
is a sense of these presences of people.
Even though it's very abstracted.
Yes.
So that's more of a sense of that kind of vibe, I think. I hope.
Looking at them as well, it struck me quite early on. Actually, it struck me that when you talk of the moment having this kind of balance and kind of serenity and harmony, and in a way, when you look at the paintings, they're kind of like visual equations in the way they have quite a lot. They have two sides with the sort of inequals in the middle, you know.
Yes, yeah.
In that sense, there's a kind of two wings brought together in this sort of harmonious conjunction, you know.
Oh well, that's
and I know that you weren't thinking mathematically, but it's like that level of abstraction, I think, comes into it in that way, that they're not representational, but yet they are figurative to some degree.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about, the kind of balance.
Yes. That's really probably the most important thing to me. It's like, even as I adjust the size of the paint, the canvas, the size of everything is important, you know, like the small.
Yeah.
So every time I adjust something, I feel like I'm balancing, like every mark would be, like it's from the same image, but if something is small, you know, everything is different again because it's a balance of balancing off that kind of experience. So, I mean, the title is really fitting for the work, I think, because it's always...
Because of the way they were made.
Yeah, because the way they're made, and like plus and minus, or like kind of adding and subtracting and then balancing it off to make it feel even and kind of harmonious. So that's that's important to work.
Going back to your earlier work, just briefly, and that is that it was more architectonic. Remember that?
Yes,
that time you were doing those, and like although there weren't people as such in them or anything that could be construed as, yet there was a feeling of presence and occupation. Is that fair enough?
I would never take a picture that I haven't had been in the place for a long time. Pretty much most of the work, I've always revisited the place, so it's a sense of the human having been there, or the feeling like it was a lived architectural environment. So the ones I had here in the gallery the last time, it was kind of a repeat of the same, not exactly the same from the same shot, but of an architectural structure, but it definitely was lived in, even though it was quite cold looking. It was lived. It was a lived room or presence, I think. So, kind of,
There was a slight feeling of like memory or something at play in that, I thought, in that work.
Because I did them over a series of a long time, so I was thinking of the activity and kind of a similar thing. Like the activity that was there, and I feel like maybe the work now is kind of back to the work I made before.
Before that,
And just looser and more, I don't know, I can't explain.
More at ease? Or...
More at ease, yeah, and more, more responding maybe obviously to the figure being there.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of more exciting for me now than maybe leaving them out anymore or something. May possibly, I'm not really sure.
Do you think that the experience of lockdown had any effect on?
Well, in a way, yes, because when I look back at the image, I was thinking how tightly everyone was together. So it made me think, God, that was really tight kind of time. When I was like, probably made me instinctively look at the picture again and think, everyone's so cohesive and very together, do you know? Not,
yeah.
But maybe it made me respond to the image in a different way. So to look back at those good kind of times where people are together and now everyone's coming back together again like that. So kind of tightly knit kind of group of people. So maybe that has responded. That's the way I've responded, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but otherwise, I'm not sure. I just suppose I was more researching then, so I wouldn't say that it would have a big impact because I would spend a lot of my time by myself
in a studio.
So I couldn't say it's massively different, but I would appreciate a time like that. So yeah. So
when you're working, you were saying that you would work on more than one painting at a time, that you would move around. Is that?
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely work on more than one. But it was a nice break to like add in the yellow with that has no kind of colour in it. It was kind of like when you're not sure. I just felt like that they only happened recently, and they're kind of like they kind of remind me of the title of the last show, where it's like it was called Prime Vision. So it's like a stain of your memory of.
Yeah.
It's kind of they're more the architecture of the structure of the environment. So they kind of reflected back on the older works. So they were kind of a relief of the intensity of doing all the works. And I feel they broke it up a bit. So I hope that makes sense. I'm not explaining that right. But
you mentioned that you were looking at Morandi as one of the people you were looking at.
Yeah, I love the way, I suppose the objects are very figurative. So I was kind of going back and forth between, like my people are probably more like objects.
Yes.
And I like the way his is like a chess play, you know, it's kind of like the plus and minus and the moving. He kind of stays with the same image, or stays as the same setup, but they're all adjusting, and it kind of has the same kind of idea I like to play with.
Sort of fine-tuning.
Yeah, fine-tuning and making the objects look like, even changing the shape of the object to make it fit into the composition. So I love playing with that.
And they have something that appears here as well. You're not quite sure the scale a lot of the time here. Yeah. The scale of what you're looking at. Do you always see them in terms of figures as you're working on them, or?
I know initially, I do, but as I go on with the work, I kind of see them differently, just to make them fit and to make them balance. They can take a different kind of shape, but they'll always be in mind with that. Like I don't really look at the reference anymore once I've made kind of initial kind of sweeps of that I'm happy with. You wouldn't refer back to not for unless I kind of needed to rethink something, and maybe if I was stuck. And then I might see that and maybe try again, but I wouldn't, just because, I'd rather be fixated on the canvas size and how I respond to it at a certain point. So I'd rather look at the canvas, and that's what I'm dealing with at a certain point, and make sure that it looks balanced and not to be referring to the picture anymore, or just to try and get that across onto the size that I've picked, the size of the shape I've picked. So,
Did you have a yellow in mind from early on when you were?
No, but I just I had a few sketches, and I had a few sketches that I was drawing out. But I in my sketchbook from before, I had just, kind of responded to that yellow. And I drew a certain shape out, and that was the shape I initially started with. So there was no real feeling. Definitely, I don't know why I chose the yellow, but I feel like I don't know why at the time. But when I was talking through it with you afterwards, I was like, it is because it's kind of like that kind of religious, holy kind of feeling, and I feel like that's really why it's warm. That's the feeling, that it's exciting colour, and it's got good energy from it. So they're all the things that really I was trying to put across, and that's why I went with it. I went with it because that's what was exciting to me, and it just felt right to go with it. So it was my instinct to go with it. And when I made a sketch on it on a piece of paper that was that colour, I said, that's definitely, because I started off with something else, for a series of work, and it wasn't right, but then that was right to me, so I just went for it. So yeah, that's why there's no. And
you decided that you weren't going to go far from that in terms of colour?
No, because I just felt I liked working a series, and it still excited me, and I felt I had a lot to do with one image that still was exciting to me. Yeah. So I didn't want to pull away from it too much. So it's still, if I wasn't excited by it, I wouldn't have done it, quite consistently. So
yes, yeah.
That's really that's the feeling there.
There's quite a move on from, say, the last body of work that you exhibited.
Yes.
Is that characteristic of you? Would you say that you?
It is definitely a move on, but I wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
But it does remind me of the first series of paintings I ever made. Because of the yellow pause, or that's how the yellow pause in the work. Sorry, the one with just two yellows.
Yes, yeah.
So I remember when I first started making work, it did remind me of that, because I had kind of intense busy paintings, and then I knew I had to break it up with something else. So I feel there's a similar, they're completely different, but I feel like where they come from is quite a similar place. So
yes.
They're definitely different when I look back, but I feel they're similar to ones maybe before.
Right.
So with that, they're definitely different to the last series, but they definitely come from a similar place. And when you decide that's an image that I'm really excited about, I kind of did that with the last series as well. So, I like to stick with it and get across all what I can get at what I felt, or what I was feeling, or and that's why it goes through so many paintings. It's like I'm not finished with it yet. So and that's similar to the last, but quite different in style. So yeah.
So then, does it reach a point when you are finished with it? When
definitely, yeah. When I feel like with the title, when it's balanced, and I'm happy with it, and it is balanced off, and when I feel I've let it dry and I've no more else to do with it, or leave it, and then I look back on it, so that's really finished to me.
Is it hard to know when that point is reached?
It is, but sometimes you think it's not done, and then you come in and fresh. If you say no, just leave it, and then
it's fine.
It's fine. You're like, actually, no, that's it, because that's enough, and that's all there is. The information is there. For me anyway. So yeah.
Has your work, would you say, followed a consistent kind of line of inquiry from the time you were a student onwards?
I would say so. Yes. It's often dealing with the same themes. So. But I suppose I'm more reflecting on figures, the energy from the figure now. So it's definitely a step differently. But it does remind me of I have done that before and been really excited about. Like, there's someone in there that I've painted before. Like, I know they're very abstracted, but so I did that when I was in college. I saw that this person was holding the same figures that I was dealing with more abstractly, but she was a figure herself, holding, or she was in an environment with kind of similar shapes, and I just felt, excited about that. To continue. I don't know if I'm explaining that properly now, but I feel it's from a similar place, like the line of inquiry. So, but definitely it's moved on from. But I might move back to something else. I'm not sure what's the next step. So
yes,
yeah.
You were saying when we were talking about something else, you were saying that you like to kind of protect your work. It's almost like you need to protect it from things that might in some way impinge on it. So you have to keep it, it has its own kind of life and you want to keep it preserved. Is that fair enough?
Like kind of private? Or?
When you were saying about, we were talking about words and you were saying you like to keep the words separate from the painting,
Yeah, because like I wouldn't, I know what I'm doing as I'm painting them, but it's fine. Like when you came down to visit, I found it really difficult to explain. So, and you were quite like as I was like, I don't know what to say actually. Still, so I just said, surely I would know by the time you came, but I didn't. So but I knew, but I didn't.
Do you think in a way it's better not to overanalyze them?
I definitely, for me, because I do know what I'm doing, but if you're asking me halfway through, even anyone who asks me, I tell them actually who know me closely, I would rather they don't. How are you getting on with the painting? I hate that question, so they don't ask me at home or close. People don't really say, or some people I would trust to maybe say, I think this is a good start. I would ask them, but then I kind of know that it's going somewhere. So, but I think and it's good to. It's good to keep the words. You were saying the words separate. I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to be overanalyzing it as I go. Because definitely I feel like the words, like the title and discussing that with you, it's like that is definitely the title. Like I'm so happy with it's totally perfect, and that it's great to talk to a writer and then just
that's as far as you want to go.
That's because you get stuck for the words but they really correspond, and I love the text. I just feel like it's totally corresponds with the work.
That's okay.
But at the time when you came down, it's great that you could see that, because that's really what the feeling is like about the work. So, but I wasn't able to say that at the time. So that's okay.
So, in the period having finished an exhibition, I mean, do you have the feeling that you want to get onto something else, or do you feel let that emerge in time, I know I was thinking about that. I'm excited to get into something new. It's exciting when you see something. Can you say it again, actually? What's it actually? I let it. What was the question again? Sorry. It's like, do you feel happy enough to let something emerge along the line, or is there something in the back of your mind that maybe you will turn to?
I think there's definitely something in the back of my mind, and I feel like I'll know when I see the next thing. But I feel it's going to be I hope, actually, anytime I say I'm going to do something similar, I do something different. But even for this work, I thought I was going to do something completely different when someone asked me beforehand. So, but I know it's about a certain. I know the theme will be similar in my mind, but it might not appear that way.
Yes,
visually, but the feeling will be the same. You know, I'm sure it'll be a relation to people and
Yes.
you know, their energies and live spaces and good morale and kind of things like that. I'm sure it will be. So that'll be the continuation. But what image it is, I mean, I don't have that in mind yet. Or maybe it could change. I don't know yet. But I'm sure that'll be in the back of my mind as I see what I see.
Is a studio important to you, like the circumstances of the studio? And
yeah, I'm really enjoying the studio space because before I was saying to you, I would have been more of a night owl, and
really?
I had like fake lights and, you know, continuous space, which I did love at the time. It was continuously, then I always had the same light, but now I'm really enjoying having proper nice lights in the morning. And I thought actually that was really important for the yellow. Do you know, it's important for everything, but it just felt like, because there's light changes all the time in them, and I knew for certain ones that I had to start that morning with that, or I wouldn't just get it right, or something would be off, or I just had to make it, and so the light was very important, and it just feels better actually to have the space that I'm in, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you find it okay to work in the studio and then go and do something else and then come back to it? Is kind of
no, I don't. I don't do that actually at all. So, for the show, I just didn't. I had to do the same. Very boring. Like do the same. Just really stick at it. So, I don't like to socialize too much afterwards. So, but you know, I just have to do it in consistently repetitive. You know, the same things. Yeah. So. Just to get it, it really interrupts what I'm doing. So I would rather just stick with it, like consistently. I wouldn't be one that who. I just like to stick to consistently and try and go as far in the day as I can.
Yes.
If the day is going well. So I don't like to interrupt or be thinking about having to do something else unless as less, especially up towards the show. I don't like to do that.
But do you find that when you're not painting, that it's sort of going on in the back of your mind, even?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Definitely, yeah. Like I'm excited now to see what's going to happen. I mean, to think like with all what's going on and thinking about this, like subconsciously to know when the next time that I'm going to be excited about capturing something, and always thinking about it in it's going to be there, like it's all instinct when you decide what you're going to go with, or what's worth celebrating again. So I'm excited to see what that, but it's always going to be in the back of my mind. When you see something, you see it, but you're aware that you're going to be thinking about it. So
yes, yeah.
So
well, I think it's a beautiful exhibition, and
thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Here. And
thank you for doing this.
Oh no,
thank you.
If anyone has any questions, feel free.
Hi.
What do you listen to in the studio, or are you silent and concentrated?
I'm silent kind of person, yeah. I mean, if I'm taking a break, or if I'm making the canvas, or not, I keep saying canvas, but they're wood, but if I'm making the boards, give myself a bit of time to have a bit of fun then. I don't have to think so much about it, or when making priming things, maybe I'd listen to something there, but...
You're pretty much totally concentrated.
Yeah, sorry, I'm pretty concentrated. So, I mean, it would be distracting because I have to keep looking back at them, or just the process. I just have to be a bit more silent. So, I think too, yeah. But like when you have a break, you can listen to other stuff. So, well, yeah, it's mostly silence, I'm afraid. Sorry.
I'm really curious about the piece of furniture in the centre of
Oh yes, yeah.
I mean, just that it seems so finished and present, whereas everything surrounding it is kind of in flux.
Oh well, good. Yeah.
What that's about, or to what extent, like that's kind of an anchor or something for the painting.
And actually, yeah, that is actually great because I feel like I think even you said it in the last. You said solidity is comfort, or you know, like I like to have something stable in the image, most of the time. So I've always stuck with that. Even in for the last work, I think that's a similar theme. So it kind of makes everything a bit freer. But I like something to be solid, so that I think everything else can play. And so yeah, I actually think that's kind of continuous with a lot of the work. There's often something that stays solid, and then everything is like moving, and yeah, it kind of makes it like a stable or something stable about it. So, yeah, I think that's why I kind of kept with that. It's kind of like a work table.
That's
So
what I thought was almost like an equals, you know, it's like
yeah,
the centre of the equation.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Does it go back to the original photograph you were talking about?
Yeah, that would, yeah. So there's
Yeah.
some element of it, and there those back pieces are like windows, but I didn't really want to do that. I mean, I didn't want to. When I initially made the first mark, they were they were distorted, so I just felt it looked right. So, but that just stayed with it, or just a few items always stay for kind of solid, you know, yeah. So that's it.
Is it a kind of overt comment on that kind of chestnut of you know, between figuration and abstraction, because the table or whatever it is there in the centre is finished, and you know, straight lines and hard edges, so it's kind of geometric and stuff, whereas the surrounding stuff. So I mean, is part of that differentiation between abstraction and figuration
Yeah.
fully embedded in the work it is?
I think so, yeah. I mean, but it's hard to know because I don't know what anyone sees. But for me, it definitely is like slightly like people. I mean, they're very abstracted, but I like something to be like I know that's, you know, like that's the real thing. You know, that's the real solid thing. So, there's definitely a play on that. And I feel it makes me play with the other things more and just have one thing that I'm basing things around, kind of. So, yeah, I would say it's. I don't want to pull away completely from that to be totally abstracted. So I just like to have something that I base something around. So yeah, that's that. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
That's all good. Thanks.
Thanks a million.
Thanks so
Stephanie.
much.
That was
Thank
great.
you. Thank you.
That's
It was
really
great.
well.
Thank you.
Okay.